coming up on Wrestling Life.
Bret Hart was like, if these people were superheroes, you could be Bret Hart. You know what I mean? Like, he was like the Canadian Fonzie of wrestling, like the leather jackets. He was always cool, calm, collected. He was a hitman. He was so good at wrestling. Like, if you ask me who my favorite in-ring wrestler is, it's probably Bret the Hitman Hart. Yeah, so Bret's, and also I'm Canadian. And it's just like, he was our national hero. I remember I interviewed Bischoff and he's like, Bret thought he was like a Canadian hero. So they're like, Bischoff, he was. Yeah. He's like, are you Canadian? I'm like, yes. And I'm like, he was. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I feel bad for you that you're Canadian though. And I'm like, oh my God. But Bret was a Canadian hero.
This is Wrestling Life with Ben Veal, the show that celebrates wrestling's past, present, and future with real talk from real talent.
Welcome, guys, to another Wrestling Life. And joining me on the show today is a guest who is simply impossible to miss on social media. He's the man behind the success of the Wrestling Classic brand. He's interviewed and shared the stage with a veritable who's who of wrestling legends. Everyone from Stone Cold Steve Austin to Bryan Danielson to Chris Jericho to Bret the Hitman Hart. He's a content creator, social media specialist, and the host of the Casual Conversation series. And he's someone who, just like me, loves himself some pro wrestling. Joining me on Wrestling Life is, of course, for Wrestling Classics, Justin Dhillon. Justin, how are you?
I am great. Well, that's a great intro.
You got a lot to talk about.
That was great. That's awesome. I forgot you made me sound cooler than I think I am. That was nice. I like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's, it has been a real journey and I followed you on socials for a long time and kind of seen this grow. I mean, you've been at this for a long, long time. And yeah, you are pretty much the king of wrestling content these days. You're pretty much everywhere. Where does this wild wrestling road all begin for you?
The king of wrestling content's insane. I think I always joke around. I'm like, I feel like I'm now in that, in that place in terms of wrestling content. I'll tell you how it started, but where like I feel like I'm one of the old guys in the locker room. And it's like like in the Ruthless Aggression era, you have like Shawn Michaels and Undertaker in the locker room. Where like right now you have like John Cena and Punk and Orton. I'm like, I feel like I'm one of those guys because there's all these extremely talented content creators and interviewers and people doing cool stuff. And I think a lot of my for a lack of a better word, clout comes from I've been just doing this for so long. But it's cool. Honestly, I've loved wrestling since I was a kid. I have an older brother who's 10 years older than me. He was born in the early 80s, so he grew up a Hulkamaniac. So we have a sister in the middle, but we have a 10-year age gap. And I always tell people, I'm like, I just think like from the moment I can remember, I was surrounded by wrestling. Like, don't get me wrong, in his teenage years, he kind of fell out of it, like early 20s, I would say maybe. But like I had all the action figures, I had all the magazines, I had the toy ring, I had all the video games on Super Nintendo and Nintendo and N64. Like it was almost like inevitable that I was going to like it and enjoy it. And then it really did become a form of escapism for me. I was that kid that played with my figures and built storylines, got way too deep into the story modes on the video games, started e-fetting on MSN groups where like I'd be like Justin, my character, but it'd be like Sting's face. I'm cutting promos on people and stuff. Like I went through the whole situ, trying to call the hotlines. They're like, hey, like call this hotline, just know it's going to charge you. Ask your parents ahead of time. I'm like, screw that. Yeah. Oh my God, like the NWO is coming to WWF. So like I went through all of that. But I just think it was inevitable. I just think it's my brother's fault. He takes blame for it till this day, but it was just around me. I still have the old LJN figures and the Hasbro figures upstairs that were my brother's and the magazines. And it's like, he used to do a thing too where he recorded, I don't know, I mean, VHS tapes don't exist no more and Blockbusters and stuff barely exist either. But back in the day, you could go to a video store, rent a video. And if you had 2 VCRs, you could record that video onto your own tape.
Nice.
And I had all these, like I had WrestleMania 1 to like 9, I want to say, on VHS as a kid that I'd always watch. And then my brother had a habit, I guess, during the 90s to record shows. So he would record all these Raws and Nitros. And I would just like, when I wasn't like watching cartoons or other things, like I'd watch wrestling all the time. And I was that kid that would like sometimes forward to the matches, but watch the promos and the characters and see what was going on. Like I always loved that stuff. And he recorded a bunch of Nitros and Raws. And as I got the network, I realized there was a bunch of Raws and Nitros missing because like he would miss a week or two sometimes. But I was like, oh, like I watched all this stuff growing up, like, and then I got to a point where I got into my like 13, 14, 15 years old. I started taping Raws and SmackDowns and everything in 2002 and 2003, 2004. All these tapes that I started recording and pay-per-views, and it just never. It was just a thing. It was inevitable. It was gonna happen.
So your brother's a Hulkamaniac. Who was your guy? Who hooked you?
So who hooked me is crazy because I always say one of my first memories, I think I have a couple of first memories, right? One of them I think I remember, and I don't know if this is like, obviously like I saw wrestling from the get-go. I probably saw stuff I don't remember seeing. Yeah. But I remember getting kicked out of a playroom we had in the house and like peeking in the door, and there was Razor and Sean having a ladder match. I couldn't tell you if it was SummerSlam, or I couldn't tell you if it was WrestleMania 10. Couldn't tell you if it was live or they were watching it after the fact. I remember that. I also very vividly remember, and this is such a random memory, like being a kid in 1996, so I would have been like 5 or something, and like it was like the SummerSlam free-for-all, and the ropes broke when Yokozuna went up for the Bonsai drop on Stone Cold.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I'm like, I like vividly like remember that and being like, whoa, that was so cool. Like, and I don't like, I just remember that. And like, don't remember, my brother came home later with the SummerSlam VHS. Like, he recorded it after watching at his friend's house in a black box, which was like the illegal, pay-per-view box or whatever. And, but I just remember that Yokozuna Stone Cold moment. I remember looking for it for so long when I like started my page and finding it online a few places and being like, wow, like what a random memory. Like, I just remember Yokozuna breaking the ropes, trying to do a Bonsai drop in Stone Cold winning. Now my guys are different. Like I said, I was a big character storyline guy. I think for me, like obviously as a 90s kid, like I'll get, if you ask me my top 5 of all time, and it sucks because like if you ask me my top 10, it's a little bit more fair because then you'll have guys like Sting in there. Like Sting's probably like number 6, right? Like, and then whatnot, but Razor Ramon's probably up in there. But like my top 5 would be, I would say 5 would be Stone Cold. Obviously, like just even as I get older, just realizing how much like he influenced my generation and what he meant to us. Like, and I'm never like the front man guy. Like, I don't love Mickey Mouse. I like Goofy and Donald Duck. I don't like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not a main character guy. So I always laugh at him. Like, I think Stone Cold's like the only like main top guy because I'm not a Hogan guy. I'm not a Cena guy. I think Austin's the only guy that ran an era that I was really like, that's my guy, right? Because so Austin, but number 4 would probably be Shawn Michaels, and I don't know if you were. I mean, you were probably a little bit older than me in the 90s. Like liking Shawn Michaels could be conflicting sometimes because he would strip tease and he'd be a little flamboyant, and my older brother would be like, "Why do you like this guy? And why you don't sing that song?" But like, you're not a sexy boy or a boy toy. But I love Shawn Michaels. I think I just like was a big Shawn Michaels fan. Number 3, the Canadian in me. My first 2 are like really larger than life and out of this world. So so like Bret Hart was like, if these people were superheroes, like you could be Bret Hart. You know what I mean? Like he was like the cool, the Canadian Fonzie of wrestling, like the leather jackets. He was always cool, calm, collected. He was a hitman. He was so good at wrestling. Like if you ask me my favorite in-ring wrestler is, it's probably Bret the Hitman Hart. Yeah, so Bret's, then also I'm Canadian, and it's just like he was our national hero. I remember I interviewed Bischoff, and he's like, Bret thought he was like a Canadian hero. So they're like, Bischoff, he was. Yeah. He's like, are you Canadian? I'm like, yes. And I'm like, he was. And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, I feel bad for you that you're Canadian though. And I'm like, oh my God. But Bret was a Canadian hero. But that all being said, number 2 was The Undertaker because I just found him so fascinating. My first Undertaker was the Purple Glove Undertaker. That was my era of seeing Undertaker on TV. And so he was already a good guy. So I found like Mankind more scarier than The Undertaker. So that was like one of the first feuds I remember. So I was an Undertaker. I love The Undertaker. There was a point where and we might talk about it after. I don't know if that's one of your questions, like a period where you fell out of wrestling. There was a point where I kind of fell out of wrestling. But if Undertaker was on SmackDown, I'd go see what he did still. And I was like a teenager at this point. Like
was that around kind of 2004 time?
It was more like 2000. 6, 7, 8, like that era.
That was a kind of slog to get through that time as a fan.
Yeah, post redacted doing what he did, I think, and then them going PG was kind of like, and I was a teenager, so now I was like out with my friends. They moved SmackDown to Fridays. I didn't tape it, and it's not like now where like you don't watch a show and you can go on Twitter, Instagram, or even just YouTube and watch full segments and clips of it. Like if you missed it, you missed it. Like you better watch one of those Saturday recap shows or something, or like WWE.com's and put up like a 20-second video from whatever happened. Like it was a different time, right? People don't know yet. I don't know. So it was hard to keep up with it at that point. And I watched a lot of TNA. I don't know. I just fell out of WWE. It just got too, like I watched Raw every Monday because I think I just did that religiously. It was just a thing to do on Mondays. It was a school day anyways. It was come home, watch Raw. But Fridays, SmackDown, it got tough. But anyways, Undertaker, the number one. I think number one is mostly because, I don't know, every time I see him, I'm so fascinated by him. I'm always interested in hearing more stories about him. I'm pretty sure I asked Marc Mero about him when you set up that interview. I just asked Sting about him. I'm the biggest Macho Man Randy Savage fan ever. And I don't know if that's because, like, my brother was a Hogan guy and I did whatever it was like to not be like my brother. So I liked Savage, but I love the Macho Man. And it's crazy because people will be like, well, you weren't even born for 80s Macho Man. Doesn't matter. I had colorful cowboy hat Macho Man. I had Enterfield Macho Man. Yeah. I love the Macho Man. There's just something about him that's like, as a performer and a wrestler, he was great. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. I could watch Macho Man matches all day. I get the psychology of the story he's trying to tell every single time. Just as a character and a person, like as a kid, like how could you not like this guy? He was raspy voice, he was crazy, he was in Slim Jim commercials, he was colorful, but he was also like dangerous. You know what I mean? As fun and crazy as he was, you knew he was dangerous. Like I always talk about a Savage Warrior at WrestleMania 7, and I'm like, like if anybody else went up to the top rope and just kept doing flying elbows and didn't go for the cover in a retirement match, I would judge him. But it makes sense for the Macho Man. He doesn't care.
And it's funny because when I talked to talked quite a lot with Marc Mero about Randy Savage, and he said that he said to me he was always on, like he was always like shifty, kind of looking around, like he was always, it was always like he was in character. He was always that intense. They were so close, but he'd always be looking around the room, eyes darting. That was just Randy Savage. Yeah, incredible.
And I get it though. Like I get it. I've been around this wrestling industry a little bit now for 11 years. I get it. Sometimes you don't know who you can trust. You got to be a little paranoid.
Yeah.
You gotta look out for yourself. You try to help other people, they never return the favor. I get it.
But you have returned a lot of favors. I think one of the things that's great about what you've built with Wrestling Classic is it is kind of this real community. There's a lot of collaboration, helping one another. It's that really nice side of wrestling, which is what I'm trying to do myself now, of all helping one another. What point are you at? Because you go into this, 2014, you're kind of working in finance, you've got marketing skills, you start this Instagram account, it's a small thing but grows and grows. At what
It's crazy you did your research. You did your research.
What point is it that you are like, wow, I can make a living out of this thing that I grew up loving?
So I had no, and this always sounds conceited, but I don't mean it this way. Like, because I know a lot of people like have goals and they make a plan to succeed at that goal and they work really hard towards. And maybe if I made goals and made a plan to succeed at those goals and work really hard towards it, I'd be in a different place right now. But I didn't have any intention with the Wrestling Classic. Like, people be like, how'd you get, like, the name wasn't thought out, the idea wasn't thought out. Like, so we just briefly talked about like falling out of wrestling, right? Like 2007 to 2011. Watched Raw, watched TNA, caught a SmackDown if I was home. Didn't really watch every pay-per-view. Did the WrestleMania season. Always watched the Rumble, No Way Out, WrestleMania, like that season for sure. But SummerSlam was always like, got to tune in for SummerSlam. But kind of just like, I loved it. I always had a love for it. But like, I wasn't like fully into it. 2011, Punk dropped a pipe bomb, pulled me back in. The Shield stuff started happening. All this cool stuff was happening. Total Diva started, and like my ex-girlfriend and I would watch that. And I was a big AJ Lee fan, so welcome back to her being in the men's storylines, and then winning the title made me invested in the women's division. So I got back into it, and I was before I was started working even at the bank, I was working at like this hot dog stand phone booth in a mall selling phones. And I just had all these like, I just had a habit of like, and I was really good at it. Like I would find like really rare, cool wrestling pictures. And I would like be like, man, like, and then when I got back into it, like I also realized like a lot of my friends fell out of it too. Like even if they were watching in 2008 and stuff, they just kind of like they watched it. They once again they'd watch Rumble, WrestleMania, but they didn't watch it. And I felt the lack of like a community to talk to and like to like communicate with. I also learned in that time because I remember being in university and I was sitting in a journalism class and I was sitting with a friend. Like we had our ex-girlfriends were friends, so we became friends through that. Like we went to like I went to their high school grad and I hung out with them and stuff. But like that was our connection, was that our ex-girlfriends were friends. And then we ended up having a class together. And I think at this time we both broke up with those girlfriends already at that time. So like it was because, oh hey, like I haven't seen you in so long, yada yada yada. And then like one day I was sitting next to him. And trust me, this story has a purpose. I was just sitting next to him and I was like, hey man, like I'm gonna go home. Can you like just like give me whatever the notes are or whatever? He's like, when do you go home? I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, this doesn't sound really lame, but like, I'm gonna go home and watch Raw, right? I feel like today's class is pointless. And it was like this like aha moment of like, oh, like you still watch wrestling? Like, and like he was like also like this closeted wrestling fan. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Whereas like now we just became like best friends. He's like, I'm coming. Oh, let's go to my house. Let's watch it there. We both left. I was like, wait a minute, where am I gonna get my notes from? But like, we both left, and we went to his house. We watched Raw. I was like, I don't know, it was some big deal. Like something was happening that was a big deal that I felt like I needed to watch it live. And we like, you know, for about like from that was like probably 2010, 9, like 2 years straight until he went to school in Scotland for law school. I watched every pay-per-view at his house. That was like our thing. We'd like, you know, and then I realized I'm like, oh, and it kept happening where I kept meeting closeted wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't cool. Like culture had changed. You can wear like Batman and Iron Man shirts and you can wear anime stuff and it's cool. Nerd culture was cool, but wrestling was still weird. You could wear like vintage wrestling stuff. You could wear an NWO shirt, Austin 316. People will too sweet you. It's all good. But you know, you walk around a CM Punk shirt, a John Cena shirt, and people are like, "Oh, you still watch that? Don't you know it's fake?" Like, that was the era it is in 2013, 14. And I know people don't remember that now because wrestling is like popular right now, but it was like that. So it was two things. I was looking for a community, but also I was like, let's bring all the weird wrestling fans together in one place. Like, how can I do this? Because I have all these cool pictures. I want to have a community to talk wrestling with because I miss like the days of, I'm older now. I don't know. I'm 23, but I miss the days of like, I used to go on random forums and like troll people and fight with people who are wrestling like under an anonymous name and stuff. I'm like, I miss that, like debating with wrestling fans. And then also like, I know there's wrestling fans out there that are hiding. And I want to bring them together. You know, I want to somehow get all these hiding wrestling fans and be like, hey, wrestling's cool. It's okay that we still like it. Hey, if it's cool to go like the Avengers and shit, like it's cool to like wrestling. Like, come on, guys, let's band together. And I think that was the consensus of the entire page. The last little puzzle piece was at the time the girl I was dating didn't like and this is always the funny part of the story I tell people, was like, she didn't want me to have Instagram because she thought I knew too many girls growing up and whatnot. Like I post a picture and girls would comment, and she had some trust issues. I understand why. I'm not going to get into that backstory, but she came into the relationship with trust issues, which I completely understood. So I deactivated my personal Instagram and I made a wrestling page. And I blocked all my friends and family. Nice. So for the first like 3-4 years of the page, nobody knew who it was. And then, 2012 was 2014, 14-ish, in the middle of 14 is when I started working at the bank. And like, no, it was a little bit before that, but like, and then like, I always used to joke. I'm like, I was like, Bruce Wayne at the bank and the wrestling classic Batman at night, and you got to remember Instagram 2014 was just pictures. I made a decision, right? Like I went on Twitter and I was like, this place is way too saturated and the people on here are negative. I don't want to be part of that. I wanted wrestling to be like a positive thing and I wanted to bring people together. And I was like, well, Instagram's just pretty pictures and it's kind of new. And when I went on there was like maybe 2 other pages that were doing like classic wrestling pictures. It was like classic wrestling. It was called that. I think it's still around. I think they blocked me. I don't know, but they're still around. There was like $1 million champion, I think, and _1 wrestler. But everybody else was either like, and when I say this, you'll know what era we were in. Everybody else was either like an independent wrestling fan page, a fan page for the Bullet Club, a fan page for the Bellas or the Shio, the role play accounts. Like it was, but there wasn't a lot of classic wrestling stuff. I was literally in my room eating. I illegally got the WWE Network in Canada the same time America did. I figured out a loophole making a USA PSN and all this stuff. And I was watching the Wrestling Classic, and then I just made it the name. There was no thought process. I'm like, oh, that's a cool name. It's not Classic Wrestling, it's the Wrestling Classic. I'll be the Wrestling Classic.
Yeah.
And that was it. There was no thought process behind it. So going back to the very beginning of this long-winded answer, I had no plan or goal. It was just like thing by thing started happening, you know?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so I started it. I'm posting pictures. Okay, the audience came. People were coming out of the woodworks. Okay, 2015, things started happening. 2015, things started happening where, like, I don't know, like, I think because I was able to, like, block all my family and friends and kind of, one, use this as a thing to bring wrestling fans together and have a community, but also, like, became an open journal during those years. Like, if you talk to people that followed me for a long time, they'll say things like, oh, you inspired me, or you motivated me, or like you, and sometimes people are like, what do they mean? I'm like, I was very, like, philosophical in the early years. I'd really just pour my heart out here. I'd write long captions about, like, life and, you know, what wrestling meant to me and, like, why it's so special. And, like, and I remember I had a lot of them saved in my notes because I would re-up them every few months, and people would always be, I love it when you post this. And, like, 2015 was the year MJF commented on my post and was like, one day you're going to post me and I'm going to be a wrestler, yada, yada, yada. And then, you know what I mean? Like, fast forward 2022, he's giving me a shout out on TV. Like, it started becoming a little bit of a movement in those years, but nobody knew what I looked like. Nobody knew what I was. I started selling merchandise in 2015, late 15, 16. Went to WrestleMania 32. A guy walked out of WrestleCon wearing a Wrestling Classic shirt, the same design. And I was like, hey, that's my shirt. He's like, oh my God, are you the guy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, dude, he's like, there's a bunch of people in there asking me if I was you and asking about you. I'm like, who? He's like, just random people walking around, and also, like, the wrestlers. Because you gotta understand, like, Kevin Nash started following me. Brett's kids all started following me. All these, because I was finding these pictures that they hadn't even seen, right? Like, now I see a lot of these old school, like, classic wrestling pages that exist now, and they'll post these pictures, and then they'll feel like, it's very rare. There are some that, like, scan magazines and stuff and really have pictures even I haven't seen. But a lot of people are posting pictures, and, like, I'm like, I posted that back in, like, 2014, dude. It's not like a new picture, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like they're like, you didn't credit me for it. I'm like, it's not like, this picture's been on the internet forever. But anyways, then so that started happening. So then I was like, oh, I gotta own this. So I started, like, doing minor interviews, and I started interviewing the local wrestlers around here, like the Bollywood Boys, El Fantasmo, and Nicole Matthews. Never had any intention of being an interviewer. I was trying to, like, okay, we have this. How do we capitalize on it? Okay, we sold merch that paid for all my Ubers and food at WrestleMania. Okay, maybe we can get my voice out there and be somebody, because people expect me to be somebody now, because they've connected with me and they feel like a bond with me as, like, you know, this guy who loves wrestling that built this place for wrestling fans, that feels and thinks the same way that we feel and think about professional wrestling, that has used professional wrestling for his mental health, that has used professional wrestling as a form of escapism, that is like, hey man, like, as everybody had, you know, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and X-Men. And I love the X-Men, the animated series. That's, like, one of my favorite cartoons. But I mean, like, and then, you know, and other people have football, the NFL on Sundays, they watch their favorite team and they watch their favorite basketball team, or they watch whatever. But I'm like, we have wrestling, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to like this. It's the greatest form of art and athleticism combined. You need to be athletic to do it. If you are someone that's never taken a bump or tried to wrestle and want to judge it, go try. But also, it's an art. And I know a lot of people in their industry don't like saying it's an art, and some people do, but I think it's an art, and I'm going to die on that, because
yeah, me too.
I love movies. I love television shows. It's theater, right? We go in there and we suspend our disbelief, and we believe what is happening is happening. And that's, like, with everything. Like, you think people go into a movie theater and go watch the Avengers and be like, well, you know, this is all fake. This doesn't really happen. No, you go in and you believe in that movie for 3 hours or 2 hours, you know?
Yeah.
That's what wrestling is. And it's a beautiful thing. But, like, once again, it also, like, I know people, you know, sports entertainment, like, the word sports and wrestling sometimes gets muffled, but, like, no, like, you have to have some level of athleticism and like cardio and some wrestlers are probably more fit than some athletes. I hate to say it because it's like the way they fight through injuries and bruises and bumps and all that stuff, like it's tough. So I had a different appreciation for it. But long story short, there's a long answer. I apologize. I had no plans for it. And it kept growing and things kept happening. By 2016, I started doing some podcast stuff. 2017, I was like, we gotta do more. Kept trying to do more things, trying to figure it out. 2018 is when I went fully in. I was like, I took a leave from work. I went to California, tried to build this stuff. And I think probably one of the most pivotal years, because I call it the network connection years, like building my network. Because like I said, bringing wrestling fans out of the closet, right?
Yeah.
My audience started growing beyond wrestling. Back in like 2015, first things first, back in 2015, guys used to hit me up. And I want to explain this on here for anyone listening, why there's women posted on my page all the time. Guys used to hit me up. And this is when the algorithm was in order. And I would post a lot. I would post sometimes like 16 times a day. Like I don't do that much anymore. Like now it's like 9 posts, maybe 12 posts or whatever. But like back in the day, I had like 36 posts a day. I was just spamming posts, but that's how it grew, right? And that, I explain to people, like everyone has these ideas. They're going on ChatGPT, reading all these things they should do or shouldn't do, taking advice. And like, only post once a week. Like, no, spam, grow, and then slow down. But I was posting so much that guys would hit me up and be like, yo, like I love your page and I love the content you post, but I also come on Instagram to look at women. And at 23 years old, I'm like, all right, I'll incorporate women in the page. So I kind of was like, and I looked at things like back in the day, there was a thing called Chive, and then there was like, Complex kind of did it, and those other brands that were like sports, but it was also like top cheerleaders, all women, like girl of the week and stuff. And I was like, I'll do the same thing, which allowed me to start networking with some of these like Instagram models and whatnot. And at first it was just, I would post whoever. Then eventually it came to like, I would talk to them and be like, so like, what is your like end goal? Like, not that I was like downgrading being an Instagram model, but like, if they were more interested in like becoming a singer or an actress or something, I was like, okay, I'm more inclined to want to help you, right?
Yeah.
Let's get you some exposure. Like you have bigger dreams, those things you want to do, and this is like a launching pad for you because I completely understand that. And we got to a point where like, now like a lot of girls pay to be posted on the page. It's just become part of it. I stopped doing it for a bit, and people like, what happened to the girls? Like, I'm not allowed to follow them, but when it comes on your page, I'm allowed to be like, it's a wrestling page. Like, you know what I mean? But and then so that's where that all started, from the posting the models and all. But then what people don't understand is like networking with these models and stuff also opened doors for me when I was in California to go to parties and events that I would never have been invited to otherwise, which allowed me to meet people in other industries, whether it's the music industry, the movie industry, that I probably would never met, but I would get invited to places because they're like, you're not trying to be an actor, you're not trying to be a screenwriter, you're not trying to be a model. He's the wrestling guy with clout. We like having him there. He's funny. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's got an audience. So like it's good to know him. And it was good for me to know them. And it broadened my network, which I always say till this day, like my biggest currency that I have through all this is the network that I built. At one point I had, and I'm still in all their DMs, right? Like humbly. Like at one point I had The Rock, The Weeknd, and LeBron James all following me. Closeted wrestling fans, The Weeknd and LeBron James, following me. They weren't following WWE. You know what I mean? They weren't following the main WWE page. They were following me. I had actors follow me. I was the first person to get Will Sasso on a wrestling podcast out of this community before anybody else. I was, I had Fluffy following me before he was following anybody else. I had comedians following me. I had actors following me. Cleo Thomas from Zero and Holes, the Disney movie. Me and him became really good friends through wrestling. Yeah. What other reason would we have become friends? I don't know, but because he was a wrestling fan, I was a wrestling fan, we became friends. And it's crazy because all it took was me networking, going outside of the wrestling bubble, but also like trying to build this community. Yeah. And the things and the people I was writing articles for Gary Vee 2 years ago from 2021 to 2024. I like all because he's a wrestling fan, and I had him on the show, right? Like, that's not like an easy get either, because it's really rare that he's going to do anything outside of his whatever he's working in at this time space, whether it's crypto or just, yard sales or whatever, motivational speaking stuff, like you have to pay him. I haven't paid for an interview once.
Title Run Toys Series 1. Dangerous Danny Davis. Wrath. Juventud Guerrera. Ernest the Cat Miller. And Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Coming to the ring soon.
I haven't paid anybody for the interview. Someone commented today, like, have you paid Sting? How much you had to pay Sting for the interview? I'm like, I didn't. I don't know. Like, I've built a reputation.
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing. I mean, I was going to ask you about Sting, and I will do in a second, but I think you look at, the kind of names I read out at the start. So, the Stone Cold Steve Austins, the Bret Hitman Harts, the Bryan Danielsons. These are people that generally don't do much media. It's actually very rare to hear any of them do an interview, let alone share a stage with someone putting questions to them.
Yeah.
And I think the skill that you've got there, you are an interviewer, but it is much more a conversation, isn't it? Obviously, you've named your show The Casual Conversation for that reason, but it's just, you're just having fun talking to people, much more so than kind of bombarding them with pre-planned question after question after question. I'm sure there's a lot of planning that goes into it, but your style is very relaxed.
Initially, okay, so first things first, 2020 came, pandemic happened, got stuck at home. I'm in Vancouver. Not much stuff happening here. Wrestling doesn't come here often. This is not a hot pot like Chicago or New York or Philly or California. And I know you completely understand. I know they've been coming to the UK a lot more now, but before it was like once a year and maybe for like a live event, like a house show. Same thing they do to Vancouver. Like, really got Raws and SmackDowns. It just started happening in 2020. Actually, we had a SmackDown right before the pandemic, but otherwise, like, not a hot pot for wrestling. Not even like, we're not even Toronto. Like, Toronto and Calgary and Montreal get more than we do. So like, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do while I'm stuck at home? I did interviews in 2015, 17, 16 sporadically. Like I remember one, I think in 2017, like, shout out to Mariah May, we was super close, and she got something with Heath Slater, and she's like, "Hey Justin, I got this thing with Heath Slater. Like, you should do it too. I pitched your name." And I'm like, I haven't done an interview in like a year. She's like, "Just do it. It'll be good. Just like put content." So then I interviewed Heath Slater, and I was like so chill and so relaxed. But like most of it was just like, it was random, it was sporadic. Right? I kept starting but stopping. I never was consistent with it. I've had a YouTube channel since 2014. I was never consistent with it. Even when I started doing these interviews, I posted one a month and it wasn't growing. Now I'm posting one a week, plus the TWC show, plus just yapping, up to 45K subscribers. I'm like, okay, I should have probably been doing this before. Shorts help a lot. But anyways, I wasn't consistent with the interviewing thing. But when I was stuck at home, I'm like, okay, so what can I do to keep this momentum going while I'm at home? Because I had a really rough 2019 where I started kind of working in real estate, family business stuff, and was given an ultimatum of doing this wrestling stuff or this stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm making money in this real estate stuff, but I love this stuff. And I don't know, like, I don't want no resentment towards it. So like near the middle of it, I decided to go all in with the wrestling stuff. And then summer was filled with like a bunch of weddings. All my high school friends were getting married. And then I was like, 2020, okay, back into gear. We're going to start traveling again for wrestling. And then the world shut down. Like, I skipped the Royal Rumble. I had tickets to the Royal Rumble that were given to me, and I skipped it because I'm like, I'm going to go to WrestleMania in Tampa. I should save for that instead. And Edge came back, and then WrestleMania didn't even happen. And I was like, well then.
Yeah, that was a great Royal Rumble, wasn't
it? Yeah, it was. But anyways, that's part of that. But anyways, once we got stuck at home, I was like, you know what? Well, I've met a lot of cool people. I made a lot of cool network connections. I've hung out with a lot of cool people. Maybe we'll just try to get them on the show. We'll start a show and we'll just chat. And to your point, like, at the beginning, it was very like free form. I had no script. I had no questions lined up. Get them on there. We'll just have a conversation. I remember when I pitched it to RJ City the first time, I think he was like on the second episode. I know it's him and Noggin. We had like a little panel thing because I was still trying to figure out what it was supposed to be. I was like, I wanted to feel like me and you are walking into a sandwich shop. We're going to sit down and we're just chatting. Yeah. I don't want it to feel like an interview. I don't want it to feel like I'm out there trying to bait you for headlines or anything. Let's do it that way. And that's what it was. And it was easy because I was talking to people I've already had relationships and conversations with. That made it easy. it wasn't until I want to say the first one where I really was like, okay, I need questions, because I didn't try, like, to be fair, I also didn't try to reach out of my comfort zone at the beginning. I didn't try to reach people. I didn't have the confidence that I could get people on my show that I didn't really know that well, or they'd even want to do that. I understood I built a reputation on Instagram, but I'm not popular on YouTube, and I'm not the interview guy, right? Like, I had Shad Gaspard on like the 3rd episode. I had just like recently hung out with Shad. First met him at WrestleMania in New York in 2019. Him and JTG, super cool. Hung out with them at Wally Mania. Like, he was already following the page, so he was aware of where I was, and we actually became pretty cool. Like, swap phone numbers, we text each other, whatnot. Was in California again briefly, early 2020, right before the pandemic. That was another reason why I didn't go to the Rumble, because I had to go to California on a cousin's trip and then go to WrestleMania. So I was like, okay, I'll skip the Rumble and I'll go on this cousin's trip with my little cousins, all my guy cousins. And hung out with Shad there again, right? And then by the time I got home and the pandemic started, I was like, hey, Shad, like, do you want to come on my show? I'm trying to do this interview show and just kind of like chill, talk to people that I'm friends with, to like give content to people during this time while stuck at home.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, let's do it. And then we did the first episode, and he's like, dude, he's like, I'm stuck at home too. Like, should we just start our own podcast? And I was like, oh yeah, like let's do this tonight. And then I started pitching him, okay, like, what do you want it to be called? He's like, no, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, like, he's like, no given. I'm like, okay, so I can't make that the name of the podcast because I don't know, we still want to attract sponsors and stuff. So I was like, we'll call it NFG Radio, right? And then if people know what the NFG stands for, they'll know. And then I started pitching to him like, hey, like, we'll build you a YouTube channel, like we'll start doing that. And he's like, no, Justin, I want this for you. Put it on your YouTube channel. He's like, I want to build this for you. He's like, I believe in you. I think you have your head on straight about wrestling. You're not judgmental about it. You're positive, and like, you listen and you try to understand rather than acting like you know everything. So he's like, I'd rather like, let's do this for you. And we did another thing where he was on my show again, and then we did 3 episodes of NFG, which is so crazy to me because, like, obviously, like, after our 3rd episode of the actual show, like, I talked to him, and the day he went out to the beach with his family, I woke up the next morning, heard that he was missing, and then a couple of days later, we found out the tragic situation that happened. And it sucked. I couldn't even travel to California for any of the memorial stuff, and also being Canadian, it was even hard to get over the border at that time. And I remember thinking to myself, and I talked to, I believe it was his sister, someone in his family, and I sent it to them, and I was like, hey, like, it wasn't, obviously you couldn't predict this was going to happen, but like, in these 3-4 episodes or 5 episodes, technically with the 2 on my own show, I feel like we got to tell his life story, because we talked about his childhood and coming up, and what he did before wrestling, and then after wrestling, sleeping in his car as he tried to get into movies, and like everything that happened there. And I'm like, I think like serendipity, like wise, like just weirdly, like it just, the way it played out, like we were able to tell his life story before he passed away. And it's like, so that was a really cool thing for me. But after that, I remember I interviewed Brian Pillman Jr. and then I was like, I just don't feel comfortable doing this anymore. Like, I almost tapped out right there. Like, I was done with interviews. I think I did like 10 episodes or something. I was like, I don't know. Like, it just feels weird doing this whole setup, but I'm like, this guy passed away. Like, we were starting something really cool. Interviewed Brian Pillman, and like 2 days later, my page got deleted. The Wrestling Classic got taken down for 5.5 months. So what happened was, and those that followed me for a long time and are still here, I appreciate the hell out of you, because we made a lot of changes. I built a page off of pictures, then eventually videos, but videos I did not own. That were copyright videos of the WWE, and also then eventually AEW. I openly and jokingly will always call myself a pirate. I said I was the first pirate of professional wrestling. I was able to cultivate a following and create a community off of content that I really didn't, even the pictures didn't technically own, right? Like, really weird concept. Some people can say it's a cop-out, but like, hey, like, people want to see this stuff. And if you go back to like 2014, and the social media team has talked to me about this, because they'd be like, we hated you, but we loved what you were doing. because were always a little handcuffed. They always had to get permission about what they post on social media, or like, what goes up, what doesn't go up. Like someone was in charge. They had a boss. Well, I was allowed to go balls to the wall, post whatever I want, high quality. Like there was a point the WWE Instagram page, I remember like in 2014 would post like Seth and Nikki Bella backstage after match, but it'd be like this really weird yellow filter on it, and like just was not like a good picture where I was posting like crisp pictures and crisp videos, and just like learned how to screen record off the WWE network and could get anything I wanted. And I remember they were like, we just like we hated you, but you're a legend. Because I was doing everything they weren't allowed to do. Hence why I think people like LeBron and Weekend followed me and didn't follow their page. There was someone there, I'm not going to drop any names, wasn't on the social media team. I have a great relationship with the social media team. The social media team is partially the reason, no, not even like the big part of the reason why I got the page back, which I'll get to in a second. But there was someone there that was a PR guy, someone that was in charge of like media row, giving you interviews, stuff like that. There was a little bit more of an old head, was there since like 1999. I had phone calls with them. There was a wrestler, and I've told this story, so I don't mind saying, like Sheamus really wanted me to come to media row in 2017, I think it was. And he really pushed for me to come there, and pushed so hard that like me, him, and this guy had a 3-way phone call where he's like, I really want Justin to come. I think it'll be fresh questions. And this is when I wasn't doing interviews that much. I did a one-off interview with Sheamus, and I did a one-off interview with Jinder because they wanted to do it. They saw the value of my page and my reach, that they're like, no, Justin, I'm in Vancouver. Let's do this interview. Jinder wanted me to follow him backstage from when he woke up in his hotel till he walked out through the curtain. And the WWE said, no, we're not letting him do that. And then he's like, F it, still come over to this gym. We're going to do an interview. And these are guys that did it and asked for forgiveness later. At the time, Jinder was a WWE champion. Sheamus said, I guess had his respect and clout. So these guys just did it without permission, right? They were going out of the way. And I tell them every time I see them, like, I think even Sheamus kind of forgot. And then he's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, I got you. Like, I got you, buddy. Like, you were always promoting the Celtic Warrior workouts. Of course I was going to help you. Because I was always promoting Celtic Warrior workouts.
Yeah.
Before WWE was on it, like, I was always sharing it and stuff. But, so like, that same guy that I've talked to, and then I applied, then I got rejected, and I applied in 2018. He led me on, and then I got rejected. And it was 2018 because I remember, because I didn't get approved, and WWE didn't tell you didn't get approved till like 2 weeks before WrestleMania. So I booked nothing. I thought like, oh, like, okay. And then Sheamus was like, no, Justin, still come down here. I'm going to take you to media row with me. I feel like these people meet you in person, they get to know who you are in real life. Like they'll be fine. They just don't know. They just see us as Instagram page, right? Yeah. Which has always been a battle for me back in those days. It's like, what is it? It's an Instagram page. They understood radio. They understood TV. They understood podcasts. I was an Instagram page. I wasn't even popular on Twitter. I was an Instagram page, right? Wrestling industry loves Twitter. But
yeah.
And they didn't know what it was. So I went down there. I hit up my buddies. They already had a room. I was like, yo, let me pitch in. I'll sleep on the floor. I don't care, because there's only 2 beds and already 4 of them. And they're like, Justin, that's fine. Stay with us. Don't worry about pitching. Just make sure there's beer in the room at all times. I'm like, game. Went down there, bought a flight. Didn't have a WrestleMania ticket. Didn't have a ticket to Raw. Didn't have anything. So went there with a flight and making sure a beer was in the room. And once again, Sheamus is like, I brought a suit. I dressed up. Sheamus is like, hey, I'm getting pushed back. Usually we do this at this other place, but they're doing it at the hotel and they're not letting me bring anybody in. And then I was like, crap. So then that never even happened. And then I ended up like going to WrestleCon for the first time, meeting Bret Hart and Ric Flair. So everything kind of worked out. I can tell you a whole Bret Hart story another time, where like I met him at 6 and I never actually met him at an empty 8x10. But then by 26, he's pulling me out of the lineup and taking me to the front, because I'm friends with his kids and like signing stuff for me, which was crazy. But anyways, that same gentleman that Sheamus tried to link me with was the person putting claims on my account. So he put 2 claims on my account.
Right. Okay.
Then AEW started in 2019, and I'm not going to throw names out there, but I talked to some people that are very high up in that company at the time, and they were like, no, Justin, post whatever you want, promote us as much as you can. We really appreciate it. So I did. My videos got flagged. I till this day cannot pinpoint who flagged the videos. There's a lot of theories, because it came from a hello@allelitewrestling.com email. I've been told it was probably TNT, because they also have ownership over the content, obviously. So maybe it was them. I was told it wasn't someone at AEW, but the email says otherwise. So I don't know. But it's all good. Because the one thing about AEW, the moment they happened, they immediately like, oh crap, our bad. Let us retract that for you. And the hardest part of this whole situation was trying to find those claim numbers because I didn't have the emails or anything. Like I didn't know what they were. And like trying to connect with Facebook was brutal because it's like hard to do. And like I almost gave up. I started a whole new page called TWC Worldwide. It was actually my merchandise page. I made that my main page. Got up to 40,000 followers. I had like 500,000, like 500,000 on the other one when it got taken down. So like when I got it back, there was a bunch of people being like, "We thought we lost you." And I was like, "No, I had a whole other page here that had like 40,000 followers."
Vanished. It vanished for a while whilst
it was gone for 5.5 months, and they said it was gone. They're like, "Dude, it's gone. Once it's gone for like a month, you can't get it back." I can't say I never gave up. I gave up, but like so like August happened in July, August I tried, September just gave up. October at some point I was like, you know what, man, like. Because I did find a way to chat with Facebook. I found a way because if you had a business account and you did ads, they used to have a business chat. So I found a way to chat with them, and they would always just kind of like, no, we can't do anything about it. Plus, you need to get these, and I'm like, just give me the claim numbers. I'll get the stuff retracted. I'm like, half the argument here is I don't know what the claim numbers are, right? I'm like, I have people at AEW that would retract it right now, and at WWE it was kind of tough because I was like, who am I supposed to ask? I'm like, I know a lot of talent, but the talent can't do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, crap. I was like, but I do know a lot of people that work there. This is a lesson for everybody listening. Sorry, this is going long. I apologize.
So good.
Do not ever live off of assumptions. I know people will tell you like, follow your intuition and follow your gut feeling. It's probably true. Like you'll see those quotes and things. Not always. Because I thought those people in WWE that did not like me, I had the assumption that this person did not rock with me. I remember seeing him live at an event and being like, hey, do you mind if I can talk to you for like 5 minutes? And he's like, oh, you, the guy from the internet. He's like, DM me. Like, I can't talk to you now. And I thought that was him brushing me off because he didn't want to talk to me. He didn't like me. That was all wrong. That was all false. He didn't have a negative opinion of me at all. Like, did he have an opinion of me? I don't know, but he did not have a negative one that I thought he had. Because I reached out to him. And he's the one, and he emailed me back being like, no, Justin, we know your stuff. You're positive. We love what you do. I'm like, and I also had to explain to him, like, you understand, like, I can't monetize Instagram. No matter what I'm posting, like, I can't make money. I make money off of merchandise and things outside of Instagram, but you can't, even till this day in Canada, you can't monetize Instagram. I can monetize Facebook. I can monetize YouTube. Yeah. I can't monetize Instagram. So I was like, it's literally just a lot of free promo for you guys in your network that I do is basically what I do. And I was like, and I'm always positive, never trashing the company, never trashing the industry. My only gimmick is I don't like John Cena because I grew up not liking John Cena. I respect the hell out of the guy. Don't get me wrong. But I would have a beer with him in a heartbeat. I just never cared for the character.
Yeah.
But like, I wrote this whole thing. He's like, no, we know, Justin. It's cool. He's like, we'll do it for you. And this is like what anybody would say. AEW says, we'll do this for you this one time. We're not going to do it again. Because they don't want to keep getting bothered with this, right? So I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And he did it, right? And also to put the thing that I think really helped me was there's this kid in Toronto. His name is Steven Spice. There's a documentary on him right now on Amazon Prime. Cheap plug. They didn't pay me. But I've known this kid for a long time now, since like 2018. Yeah, it was 2018. Maybe 19. People at Sportsnet, so in the UK, where do they air all WWE's programming before Netflix?
Sky Sports. So
okay.
Sky TV for a long time, yeah.
Yeah, so imagine Sky Sports, right? The people that worked at Sky Sports, right? This is what happened to me. Imagine the people that worked at Sky Sports and they did like a wrestling after show or something, right? Reached out to you and said, do you know any way we could get this kid to meet Roman Reigns? He's had multiple like brain surgeries and his brother's autistic and he really wants his little brother to meet Roman Reigns because he gets bullied for going to school wearing a Roman Reigns vest. They're Sky Sports. They have a direct relationship with the company, but they're asking you. Sportsnet here in Canada, where all Raw, SmackDown, everything aired on, there are people who reached out to me and they asked me if I had any connections to make this happen.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I can ask talent, but once again, talent only has so much pull, especially in the WWE. Talent in the WWE is also usually, for the most part, and I don't want to generalize this because I don't think this is for everyone. Like I just told great stories about Jinder and Sheamus doing stuff and then asking for forgiveness later, but for the most part, don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to vouch for anyone that might give them a bad rap or hurt their, because it's we see people get released every year. It's very like unpredictable, right? So I'm like, I can't ask talent. This person who I thought didn't like me, I had his email in contact. So I did email him about this late 2019. It was like Christmas time because it was a Christmas show in Toronto. And I emailed him about this kid that wants to meet Roman Reigns. His little brother is autistic, and this kid's had multiple brain surgeries, and he wants to meet Roman Reigns. And is there any way we can make it happen? And I never had a proper conversation with this guy. Once again, thought he brushed me off. We knew of each other. He's like, was not anymore. He's like the main guy for somebody now, but it was like the head of social media at that time, like the director of social media and whatnot. And emailed me back. He's like, okay, interested. Maybe we can do something. Can you do the due diligence? Can you just like make sure they're not lying, like, et cetera, et cetera. So I did that, talked to the mom and stuff, reached out, and we made it happen. And like, the video, like WWE, the marketing machine that they are, and I absolutely respect it as a marketing student. Like, I don't look at it the negative way. Made a whole video of these two kids meeting Roman Reigns, put it on YouTube. They captured the whole thing, like it's out there, and I set that up. So I think because I did that was also part of the put me in a good light to help me get my page back. Because they're like, yeah, like we just did that like 6 months ago, Justin. Like, we know who you are. Sure, we'll help you this one time. And then I got the page back. But I lost her 5.5 months. I had to lie to Facebook and said I had a lawyer when I didn't even have a lawyer to scare them. And they're like, okay, sure, we'll help you. and like literally, I remember like on my birthday, like I got my page back like a couple of days after, but I learned that I was going to get it back on my birthday, which was such a coincidence. So like late October, I was at a friend's wedding and a random number from California called me. And I don't usually answer random numbers, but it said Facebook headquarters. I'm like, yeah, maybe. And the girl that I was talking to had a real voice and was a real person. Her name was like Brittany. And she's like, I'm going to help you. We found the claims. I'm like, yeah, let's go. I was like so drunk out of my mind, but out of one of my best friend's weddings. But I gave up in like September, October. But then we got it back. And shout out to the people that helped me. Shout out, honestly, like, I don't know who's, but shout out to Nikki at WWE. Shout out to the Young Bucks and Jeff Jones. But we got the page back. And yeah, going back to your main question, I apologize. I stopped doing interviews. I didn't do it that whole time, that whole 5.5 months. Didn't think I was ever going to do it again. Always had a solid relationship with Renee Paquette, Canadian. Used to watch her since she's been on the shows here before she ever worked for the WWE. And she had just left the WWE. And I remember talking to my friends in the group chat. I'm like, I don't really want to do interviews anymore. But I'm like, if Renee says yes, because I always wanted to interview her, but it was hard for me to get anyone from the WWE at that time.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to get anyone from AEW at that time. Once again, put in the hours, put in the work, found loopholes, made it happen. Didn't just get it, as people, like I said, going back to that instant gratification thing where people think I just get things.
Yeah.
I earned them in a really hard way.
Yeah.
But and I've had to start saying that to myself because I have like an imposter syndrome, confidence issue sometimes. It's like, no, like I earned them. Like I do deserve this. Like I did put in the work for this. There is a reason why these things are happening for me. I shouldn't like downplay myself or undervalue. And I've done that for years. Like even when I charge for posting, people are like, why are you charging so little? I'm like, I don't know. I don't like know your value. I forget someone in the industry and more in the entertainment industry side of things. I remember we were at an event and he looked at me and he was being dead serious. I don't know if he was drunk too, but he's like, hey man, he's like, I love you, but stop being so humble. Like be humble. It's good that you're humble, but stop being so fucking humble. Stop being so nice to everybody. And I had the same conversation this year at WrestleMania with another friend who's like a manager for a lot of people in the industry and stuff. He's like, Justin, stop being so nice to everybody. He's like, they're gonna take advantage of it. Like, just stop. Like they're not giving you. And I'm learning. I'm learning as we go. That
humility is a good thing, though. I think it's yeah. I get the point, but also probably a lot of the success you've had is because actually you've been a humble person, you've been a nice person. You haven't been
without a doubt
things trying to get something back from other people.
And anyway, so I got Renee, started doing interviews, kept going. But to what we're talking about now, this is on a more philosophical side of things. I think I was raised, and I'm not a super religious person. I understand all religions. I do research on all religions. I'm a skeptical, fascinated person. I like to know things and learn things. And when you research everybody's religion and you hear everybody's stories, you're like, oh, how can any of this be true? But But I'm religious. I believe in something bigger. I do believe in God, but I think I have my own belief of I've created my own belief of how this works, right? But I have belief in all religions, but in their own ways. I just think a part of it was organizing the world so we wouldn't be savages, and giving us a moral compass, and giving us things to believe in, and giving people hope. And people needed something to believe in. If we didn't have anything to believe in, we'd all be crazy. But I do think something I was taught since I was very young, and it's part of our religion, Sikhism, because our religion is mainly a very spiritual religion. It's not very we don't have someone that we say is God, or we pray to. We have teachers. Our gurus are teachers. They're not gods. They're teachers, right? So we believe in one God. We believe everybody has one God. Everybody, every religion, we all have one God, but we're just supposed to be connected to it. Whatever, honest work, do good, pay it forward. And something we were taught really young was a thing called seva. Seva means, I don't know the exact definition, but it was to give back in a way. Seva basically means to give back. So when we go to our temples, as kids, we were always taught to go help hand out napkins. We have a free langar hall, a free food hall, a cafeteria where anybody can come eat there. You can go into an Indian temple and go eat at our food hall, and no one will judge you, because it's part of our culture to give food, let everybody eat, provide for everybody, right? It's something we've been taught since we were young. I think that's just in me, because I am, and I've learned this in relationships I've had and everything else too, that I get more out of a kick giving someone something and providing them, whether it's providing them with my platform or being able to give them exposure or helping somebody out, than actually receiving it myself. I get weird. I get weird when people want to interview me. I get weird when people want to give me gifts or something. I like giving other people stuff and helping other people out. I like the fact that I might be maybe didn't do a whole lot, but a footnote in a lot of wrestlers' journeys, if they remember. But when they were on the independents, this guy put me on. Or when I was coming up, this guy gave me exposure. Or when I needed, this guy talked to me out of a bad situation and told me to believe myself. And I know I have been. And whether I get my flowers, I don't, that's fine, right? But I like the idea to know that so I think of life when you die, right? This is getting dark.
This is deep.
This is the Scorpio in me. When you die, I believe people that don't know you will just remember you for who you were. The wrestling classic, that guy, he was a great guy. He posted great content, whatever. But I'm for the most part, people don't remember. I always think people try so hard to have this great job and this great car and this great house, and it's I don't remember anyone dying and being wow, they had a great house and a great car and a great job. You know what I mean? They had 2 kids and a wife. That didn't. At the end of the day, people as humans, we're a little selfish in a sense of it's someone dies in your life, you start thinking about what that person meant to you, or the memories you had with that person, and that's how people remember you, right? It's based off of what you meant to them. I have friends I haven't maybe talked to in 6-7 years. I was so tight with in high school. If one of them passed away, I'd be man, I remember the days we used to go secretly underage, get liquor and drink at the park and hang out. Those, I don't know anything about their life in the last. I don't know what they do for work or how their kids are. That's how I'm gonna remember them selfishly. Yeah. As one of my really close pals that I grew up with, and we used to do dumb things together, and I have those experiences with them, and I'll always have love for them, right? Yeah. Oh, those deep conversations we'd have at 2 a.m. drunk sitting on a park bench. Those are the things I'm gonna remember with all the time we got in that fight, and he pulled me out of the way of getting punched in the face. Those are the things I'm gonna remember, right? And I feel when I learned that, I'm I just want to I want people, if anything that does happen to me, and I'm not doing it because of that, I want to help as many people as I can. So if they remember me for something Justin, you 2 things. I want people to think I did whatever I want to do and I somehow accomplished it, which I have. I made something out of wrestling. Yeah. I remember I met one of the main TV producer for AEW at a AEW. They invited me to the hotel after the show, and everyone was just kind of hanging out at the bar and drinking and stuff. And he came up to me. He's Justin, and I never thought about it. I never really thought about the way he said it at this point. It's 2023 now. It's 2023 November. I went to Full Gear in LA, and I went to the hotel after. I was hanging out, and I was sitting with a bunch of friends. And he came up to me and he said, "You know what's so crazy, Justin, is a lot of people can't say this, you created something out of nothing. It didn't exist, and now it's this thing. And now you're here. And you know all these people, and you've done all these things. And I was like, I never like thought about my own journey in that way. Like this, like what we just talked about, how I started it. I wanted a community. Ex-girlfriend wanted me to have Instagram. I created this crazy like community and did all these cool things from. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't get a broadcasting degree. I didn't like try to find my way into the wrestling business. That wasn't ever like the point of it. I never said I was going to be an interviewer. No. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the guy that MJF's scrolling on his Instagram page. So he's going to drive home and tell his dad he wants to be a wrestler and drop out of college. I'm still friends with MJF, but more so his dad till this day. Okay. I knew Mariah May before she ever even started training to wrestle because I saw her wearing wrestling shirts and I slid in her DMs and I said, hey, I need you to model my merch. Do you actually like wrestling? And in our first conversation, she said, I want to be a wrestler. I was like, oh my God, you need to start building your brand. Before she was a WWE shop girl, before any of that, 2016, I've only been able to do these. There's people backstage that work in this industry that work in. I had someone that who worked for WWE, now works at AW. He got stuck in Vancouver because his flight got delayed. He's like, hey, do you want to go grab dinner? And we were walking, and it didn't hit. It was weird to me because he was like, hey, I just want to say thank you. Like, this is a private conversation between me and him. Like, no one will probably have it. He's like, you know, like when I first started doing this stuff, you would always like share my videos and the stuff I was creating and help get it out there. And that really meant a lot. Like, really helped me get where I want to get. And to me, I didn't think I was doing anything important. I was just like helping a friend out that was supporting the page, you know? So it's like, I think it's my nature to give back. And I do feel like I enjoy giving people stuff. But as I sit and reflect, I'm like, oh, like, I hope, and I can't guarantee it, that I've been able to impact enough people's lives and help enough people out that if anything did happen to me or this all ends one day and I'm no longer the wrestling classic and I just decide to like, I don't know, get married and have kids and call it a day, like, I did something, you know? Yeah. I want to feel like I did something. I want to feel like I meant something, you know? So hopefully it did. Absolutely. And I think till this day, I still try, you know? And I think the passion comes soon. I think going back to before when you're saying like, you know, like people that don't usually do interviews like Bryan Danielson or Jericho or they're hard to get. One of the biggest things I think I've had since 2014, and the only reason I know is because I've heard it said back to me sometimes, like, no, like, Justin, we see your passion. We wish we knew more people that cared about wrestling the way you do. Because I've never once said don't watch. You'll never hear me go through all the history of my page. I've never said don't watch wrestling. Don't watch AEW. It sucks right now. Don't watch WWE. It's so boring. How I was the wrestling classic through 2019. It was pretty bad. But I never said don't watch. I said if I wasn't enjoying it, I would say it on my podcast, but I would never put it out there on Instagram or social media. And I'd always say like, hey, remember, we love this thing, whether it's good or bad. Like,
we want it to have a future. Yeah, exactly.
We want it for the future. We love this thing. We loved it when we were kids. There's kids that are watching it now that are watching it the same way we watched with our eyes as kids, with innocence. Yeah. They're not sitting there judging the product. They don't know the backstage news. They don't know who's going to return or who's backstage or who fought with who. They're just loving it like a kid, like we loved it like a kid. Well, let's not ruin it for them. No. Some little kid 10 years from now is going to be like 2019. That was my favorite year of wrestling. I'm like, oh my God, I feel so bad.
My little boy looks at Rey Mysterio how I used to look at Bret Hart. Like for him, all he ever asked me is, have you interviewed Rey Mysterio? I want to meet Rey Mysterio. You know, that for him is all he cares about. In the same way that 9-year-old me, it was Bret Hitman Hart. Like, and it's just really amazing to kind of see the kind of next generation getting excited about wrestling. Yeah,
like I remember I have friends now that like love the year 2008, and to me I'm like, that was such a bad year, but like they love 2008, 2009, but I'm like, I get it, you were a kid then. Exactly. That was your childhood wrestling. I feel
very spoiled because the year I got into it was 1992, which was a brilliant year, and no one doubts that 1992 was a brilliant year for nostalgia. But I was very lucky that I got into wrestling when it was at its biggest, you know, in the UK.
My earliest memories of watching it on TV is 96, 97. Mankind versus Undertaker, Stone Cold and Bret and Shawn. On the other show, the NWO, Savage, DDP, Sting and Hogan. I'm like, how, like, this is like, I was spoiled as well. I don't know. And then we went right into the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And then look how lucky we are now with the product we got. So that's what I love about wrestling. So, and this is why, you know, I left it pretty late to do this stuff. And, you know, I've had lots of chats with Chris Van Vliet, who's helped me out no end with this show.
Tremendous guy. Yeah.
Tremendous guy. And he's hammered home the same thing to me about, you know, I'm 18, 19 years into this. When I was getting really despondent a year ago, but nothing was growing, I couldn't get interviews. He was like, well, look, you just got to, what episode you're on? You're on episode 30. I'm on episode 830, you know, and he was always hammering that into me. And now he'll say, look, it started to happen for you because you're further along.
The consistency, the passion. You're doing it because you enjoy it. That's always what I tell people when they ask me advice. Like, because I'm like, don't do it if you're just looking to get wrestlers to follow and you want that gratification. Do it because you enjoy it. Once again, I came into this with no goal, with no plan. I did it because I liked wrestling. My ex-girlfriend and I have Instagram, and I wanted to build a community and bring wrestling fans out. If that was the goal, okay, I did that. But like, I never said, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this full time one day, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this amount of money, or I'm going to do this and one day I'm going to interview this person. I had a friend ask me in 2020 when I started the interviews, like, who would be like your dream interview? And I was like, oh, like Bret Hart. And then I got Bret. Then he's like, okay, if it's not Bret, then who? I was like, I don't know. It'd be impossible, but like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Then I got Stone Cold. And I'm like, okay, so I can get people.
Because they are human beings, is the actual...
Yeah.
I'm Marc Mero, former WWE Intercontinental Wrestling Champion and 3-time WCW World Television Champion. I am thrilled to announce the release of my new book, Bad to Good. The inspiring story of a wrestling wild man chronicles the highs and lows of my life, both in and out of the wrestling ring. It's a powerful narrative of overcoming adversity and the importance of perseverance, no matter how tough the journey gets. Co-authored with my good friend and award-winning journalist, Ben Veal, this is a story I've long wanted to share, and I truly hope it inspires you. I hold nothing back in this book, revealing the untold truths of my extraordinary life, from my modest beginnings and my first boxing match to the struggles with addiction that almost consumed me and my evolution into the charismatic Johnny B. Bad. This book offers an insider's perspective on the world of professional wrestling and my journey as a sports entertainer. You'll read about my pivotal negotiations with Vince McMahon that led to the first ever guaranteed contract in the WWF and how that decision marked me within the locker room. I discuss the impact of my relationship with my then wife, Rena, known to fans as Sable, on my career. I also confront the darkest moments of my life, how I hit rock bottom and how that experience sparked my rebirth, leading me to become America's leading motivational school speaker, inspiring young people and transforming lives. Featuring forwards by my good friends Diamond Dallas Page and Lex Luger, along with contributions from Mick Foley, Eric Bischoff, Vince Russo, and others who shared this wild journey with me. Bad to Good is a story you don't want to miss. Head to Amazon.com or WrestlingLife.online now to pick up your copy.
Well, look, before we wrap up, because I hope we could do another one of these, and I'm so glad we've managed to connect.
I talked a lot. I don't do these often.
Fine. I'm usually,
and then I'm like,
I like it.
And then I was like, all right, I'll tell the story. Let me tell you the story.
The one I want to ask you about before we wrap up today, because it's just happened, is you did get the interview that very few people get, which is you got 8 minutes with Sting, which is you don't get interviews with Sting really. You probably got a lot longer. But that was what I kind of saw.
So what's the question?
Well, my question was, you've interviewed pretty much everyone in the world in many regards, but Steve Borden in Sting makeup is a whole nother level. And also with the extra knowledge that we know that we've got about 3 months left of ever seeing Sting like that again. Like I kick myself, but I didn't get a photo of him at WrestleCon last year. Like I queued up and I got my belt signed. He was about the only person I paid to meet. I got my belt signed and I shook his hand and said, thank you from a Christian perspective. Actually, I've learned a lot from listening to him over years. I said, thank you for all you've given the business, and just got that little moment with him. And in that moment, it was like, wow, this is just me and him, even though the line was rushing along and he was by far the most in demand. But I kicked myself that I didn't spend the extra $100 or whatever to have a photo because it's Sting. But also, I've kind of don't really want to spend money on having photos taken with wrestlers anymore. I've spent I've spent enough money in my time, and I'm past that point now. But there is something very, very special about him, and he is a genuine icon of this business. What was that experience like? Because actually, that's a that's rarefied air to get time with Sting.
So I mentioned before, like I gave you my top 5. I'm like, Sting is probably number 6 because I grew up a little Stinger. Like I even told him in that interview, right? And honestly, it was only like 6 minutes. It was like 2 minutes of ads in there. I had a party when I was like 7 years old. Everybody painted their faces like Sting and it's gonna sound weird to the kids today because like all the fast food joints have lost their character and they're not fun no more. But like back in the day, having a party at a McDonald's was a big deal because they had the play place and it was all colorful and you had the Ronald McDonald's. And
we had Wimpy over here, which all had like big like spider superhero murals and stuff. Yeah.
But now all the fast food places are like commercialized, watered down, same tone, grayish, clean, like boring places. But when we were kids, going to McDonald's or an A&W or a Wimpy or a Burger King, like it was cool because they had character. But I told them that, like I was a little Stinger. And I was told multiple times he doesn't like to do media. He doesn't like doing interviews. I was told multiple times he's rejected very big names to do interviews with. I was told multiple times that like he just might not do it today. So earlier this year, so I want to give a big shout out to someone, and I don't know if he's gonna get mad that I'm gonna do it, but I want to give a big shout out to Gilbert. He's a promoter that promotes all the wrestlers. He's the guy that sets them up for a lot of these signings and meet and greets and whatnot, like WrestleCon and all these WrestleCades and all these Wrestleverse and all these things. So, you know, he's their promoter, he's their manager in terms of that type of stuff. And like I said, one of my strongest things I ever did, and I think it was maybe my years of working in customer service since I was 15. My grandparents had a blueberry farm. We sell blueberries in the summer, so maybe since I was like 5. But I've never had issues talking to people. I've never had issues doing customer service. I need my coffee, then I'm game. Sometimes I might be grumpy before that, but otherwise, like I always joke around that I hate people, but I'm great with them. But like I mentioned earlier, I think my biggest currency is my network of people that I've been able to network with and connect with and get to know, because that's where the opportunities come from. If you ask me how I started getting AEW interviews, it's because I knew someone's manager who got that wrestler to come on, and then I got that interview. So then when I asked the next wrestler, I got that one. Then I asked the next wrestler, and I got that one, until AEW hit me up and said, "Can you please ask us? We'll give them to you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." You know, well, like I've been able to find loop around situations because of the relationships I've built and just genuinely being myself. And like you said, a lot of that humility, like, you know, posting people's appearances, you know, posting people's stuff, like sharing that they're going to be doing this signing somewhere. Like, it's a small gesture. For the most part, I do charge for that, but sometimes I just do it if it's like a Sting or someone, because I think it's very cool. Like, go see him before you can't see him with face paint again. Completely. And it goes a long way. Like, people appreciate that, right? They're like, yo, like, thank you for promoting it. Like, you don't have to do that. But I'm like, no, like, it's a big deal. Like, people should go see him. But Gilbert was one of the promoters, and I got to know him over the last couple of years. It's one of those situations where, like, going to WrestleCons, kept bumping into him. You know, I've built such great relationships with the talent that, like, for the most part, I go to these events and, like, the talent will come from around their table. If it's one of the girls, they'll come give me a hug. One of the guys, like, they'll just start talking to me. One of the guys will start dapping me up stuff. Then the promoters are usually standing there being like, who is this guy? Like, is he gonna pay? Like, but like the talent was like, no, it's Justin, let's get a picture. Like, the best was Anna Jay, where, like, because I have this thing with the women, like, if I take a picture with them, I'll let them look at it first. Yeah. Because they, like, you know, like, is it an okay picture? Yeah. And like, and the funniest was when Hannah's like, I know this is gonna be posted, so let me look at it, right? Because, like, they know the platform, they know where it's gonna go, right? So, like, because I think promoters started taking notice of me, like, who is this guy? Why does he never pay for anything? And why is everyone just, like, so giddy to see him and happy to see him, right? So I think that's part of how we got connected, because I guess he just kept seeing me, and then, like, obviously I talked to him and we had a great couple of chats and stuff. And just a good guy, man. I remember at WrestleMania this year, I was at WrestleCon. I was like, hey, man, like, I really want to meet Sting. Like, he's like one of those guys. Like, I regret those 2 wrestlers I never got to meet that I always sit with me that I've never got to meet them. And that's the Macho Man, obviously, and Roddy Piper, because I love Roddy Piper. And I never got to meet Piper, and I never got to meet Macho. And it's like, I don't want to not meet people. Like, I don't even care if I get the picture or not. There's been a lot of wrestlers I've met or made eye contact with and nodded to and whatnot that I cherish those moments. It's like Pat Patterson, my only interaction with Pat Patterson was me walking at WrestleMania 32, and he was sitting in this area with the production area. And I looked at him and I nodded at him and he nodded at me. That was it. But it's a memory.
But that's enough, isn't it? Because you see like this obsession now with everyone having selfies with people or whatever. Like Rhea Ripley getting mobbed by hundreds of people trying to get a selfie with her, or you know, even you see like on Raw, and like John Cena will be interacting with a fan and they'll be there desperately trying to get that photo, even though they're being filmed on a 4K camera. So don't worry about it. Like for me, like I got a really cool moment with Sting last year in Philly. I had a chat to Sting for like 30 seconds. I don't really need a photo of me next to Sting.
It sucks because I think some people will be like, if you don't have the photo, there's no proof. But I'm like, I've had so many cool moments in situations where I probably it would be the wrong look to ask for a photo.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I've been invited to WrestleMania after parties and everyone's just kind of hanging out at the bar and in the restaurant. Like I can't sit there and ask someone for a photo. This is their downtime now, right? Like, and I'm graciously to even be invited here. Like I'm not gonna be that person, So it's like I always joke around, like I've met Punk like 3 times, 4 times. We don't have a picture together. I met him one time where he was putting me over to Roxanne and Cora Jade, but we don't have a picture together. It annoys me, but like one day we'll get it. But it's okay because I have that relationship with him and he knows who I am, and it's cool.
Yeah.
But anyways,
it's all maturity though, isn't it? As you're describing a lot of this, like from where you were all those years ago, like just posting photos up because you loved it and you wanted to find your tribe, to where you are now with so many of these people that you loved and respected as a fan now respect your work. It's just it's a pretty incredible kind of full circle journey.
Crazy, really, yeah. So I told Gilbert, I'm like, I would really like to meet Sting. So he took me to go meet Sting, and once again, not asking for a photo. I'm like, I just want to meet the guy. I want to shake his hand and say thank you,
Yeah.
And but then Gilbert's like, no, go pose, take a picture really quickly, like that, like whatever. So we did that, and I got to meet Sting. He was cool, super nice. You didn't know who I was, not a social media guy, but like, well, which is the case with a lot of the older wrestlers. I always say that. I'm like, the younger wrestlers, I usually don't have a problem with them. Like, oh, I know who you are, but any of the older wrestlers, like, they're not on Twitter or Instagram like that. Like, they don't know, right? And even if they are, they do their stuff, but they all have managers and stuff too and whatnot. But anyways, and then it came to a situation where there was a convention and I was asked if I wanted to come down and do interviews at the convention and kind of cover it that way, because it's a thing I've certainly gotten into this year, where like which is a cool growth from, okay, I was this Instagram page, I used to post photos and then videos, and I was a pirate, started doing interviews, lost the page, got it back, started doing interviews again. Now I started doing interviews, but now I'm like this experience guy that I go to shows and I cover the experience. So like I just went to WrestleMania this year with On Location and I covered the experience. I went to the LAX Fan Fest and I was just flown down there and paid to cover the experience and do interviews there. It's the same thing that happened here. I was invited to this Wrestleverse convention to literally the hotel was paid for, flight was paid for, I got paid, and I got to go down there to just cover the event and do interviews.
Amazing.
And I was like, okay, cool. So obviously promoted was like, Lita and Sammy Guevara and Ron Simmons and Lex Luger and the Steiners, and went there and it's the same thing. I'm like, hey, with the young people, it'll be easy. I have no issues asking Sammy or Danhausen or Karrion Kross. They'll get it. They know who I am. Might need some help asking like Ron Simmons and Luger and like the older guys, they might not know. And I don't ever want to be like, I just rolls up with a camera and my mic and like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, I'll let like the promoter ask and see if we can make something happen. And the whole day it was maybe we can get you Sting. He doesn't like to do it. Maybe we can get you a couple of minutes of Sting. Like we'll try to get him to do it. Like, and the whole thing was like they've been trying to get him to promote the tour anyways. And I was like, nerve-wracking, right? Because then, got Ron Simmons, got Lex Luger, and Kevin Nash is always cool. I had a great chat with Kevin Nash. Talked to Sammy, Danhausen, and Karrion Kross, which is out already. You can go watch that one. And we're wrapping up, and I go to the Sting thing, and it's it's a kind of common for anyone that is in this space and wants to do interviews and stuff. Like, it is a lot harder to convince the older wrestlers to do it. One, to do it for free, which I've been very fortunate to do every single one for free so far, but also like just to do it anyways, because they just don't have to anymore. Like it's really not necessary, right? Like I remember Mick Foley didn't want to do it either, but I wore him down, got to his manager. I'm friends with his daughter, obviously, right? So that's how he's like, he even came on, he's like, I didn't want to do this, but you wore me down. And by the end, he's like, no, I had a lot of fun, because like, they're so worried about like interviewers trying to get a headline out of them, trying to get like on the dirt sheets, like get an article out of Sports Illustrated or something. Like, and I'm like, I'm not that guy. And I really like, it's hard to, like, you can say that, but they don't trust you. They don't know you, right? Like, I don't know. Maybe you're going to interview me and you're going to ask me about Vince McMahon and the scandal. I'm like, I'm never going to ask you about that. If that makes me a bad interviewer, then don't watch my interviews. I don't think it's necessary. I want everyone to have a good time on the show, chat, talk, and just like enjoy themselves. Right. Let's talk about some of the stuff we grew up watching. Like, I was more excited to talk to Mick Foley about his feud with The Undertaker in 1996 than almost anything else.
Absolutely.
So like, you know what I mean? So it's like, not even Hell in a Cell. I want to talk about 96. but I want to talk about Mind Games 96, you and Shawn Michaels.
I was the same. When I had the time with Mick, there were two matches I talked to him about. The two that I was excited about, Mind Games 96 and Royal Rumble 2000.
Yeah.
They for me, are my two Foley matches from WWE.
If the legends understood that, they'd be more likely to do it. But most of them, they have to be persuaded. So like Mick had to be persuaded. Scott Steiner had to promote something. That's why he did it. So it's like, it's usually like that with the older wrestlers, and like Sting did not want to do it. I walked up there. I felt so like, you know, the feeling you're like, oh man, like this guy doesn't want to do this. He probably hates me right now. Right. And I told him to when I walked up, I was like, hey, like, I'm not going to ask you anything crazy. Because his biggest complaint in that moment was, I just feel like I'm going to keep giving the same answers, because he's already done a couple. And he's just like, I feel like I'm giving the same answers. So like, what is the point? And I was like, oh, I'll ask you some like stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, there's about like 2-3 questions just out of nervousness that I forgot to ask, because I felt like he didn't want to do it. But like we did it, and honestly, like, and I know I made him like pop a couple of times, especially when I asked him about Macho Man, and then I think I asked him about there's something else I brought up, and he like kind of smiled and laughed about it, and I was like, okay, so we're good. And at the end, he was super nice. He was like, no, that was great, thank you so much. It's just so I knew initially, like, I had to ask him about the 25 or Never tour. I had to ask him about the meet and greets and the paint. But then I'm like, I want to ask him about Savage. I want to ask him about Japan. I want to ask him about his retirement. But then, like, I'll tell you right now, like, I forgot to ask him about one of my favorite Sting memories was Spring Break, when it was him and Luger versus Savage and Hogan. He came down on the rafters on the helicopter. I meant to ask him about that, and then kind of transition into like, how would you feel doing it for the last time on that Dynamite again, like coming down from the rafters, because you hadn't done it in so long. Forgot to ask him that. That's probably the major thing. Two things I forgot to ask him. But like, I sit here and like, to your point, not everybody gets to interview Sting. Like, I have that. It's in the ecosystem now. Like, whether it was good or was bad or short or long or when exactly how I felt, like I got to interview Sting, and also, I'll always be grateful for that. If
your story and your journey shows me anything, it's that who knows if that may well not be the last time. It might be the last time of Sting in his face paint. That's pretty quite likely, but that's not necessarily your last conversation you're going to ever have with Steve Borden.
I hope not, and I doubt it'll be the last conversation I have with him. It might be the last one on camera, maybe, but hopefully not. Like. And that's the thing too, when you do something with someone once, they're more inclined to do it again. They'll be like, oh yeah, we did that, you know? So it's like, and it wasn't that bad. It was pretty easy. You know, I forget who it was, where there's been a couple of times where we ended an interview and the rest of that was easy. Like, you're good at this. That wasn't hard at all. Cause they come in like prepared to be asked hard hitting questions. Like got you questions. And I'm like, I'm not that person.
I had some DMs which meant the world to me the other day from a name that I really respect, who I've recently interviewed, who said to me, you know, thank you for handling me like a pro and not just trying to get headlines out of me and taking care of me. I was like, well, that means the world, because that's stuff you can get. That's what my job is. It's genuinely, I'm not here to get headlines. I'm just here to give you a good experience, hopefully give my audience a good experience, and everyone's happy.
Yeah. 2 last quick interview stories I'll tell you then, just based off of that. First one, Bryan Danielson, right? So I had him first when he just got to AEW, and he was only supposed to stay for 30 minutes. He stayed for like 45, 50. He would have stayed for longer. He had to go to TV. And he was laughing all the time. And after, he was just like, yo, that was so much fun. And like, I watched other interviews he did. He was not laughing at any of these other interviews and stuff. So we did something. So I got the opportunity again the next year. So that was like 2021 and 2022. A promoter was bringing him to Vancouver for a live show, to do like a private live show. And the thing about this promoter, great guy, but he doesn't let you film them. So I have this interview with Bryan Danielson that there's only like short clips of, and like someone did a summary on Reddit. I got to interview Demolition, same thing. There's no full video of it, but like there's clips of it and like whatever. But it was my first time doing a live interview, the Bryan one, like in front of people, like in front of, I think it was like 250, 300 people. Never done it before, but once again, I learned a long time ago, another life lesson. If an opportunity presents itself and you think you are not ready for it, just do it anyways.
Yeah.
And learn as you go and figure it out. Because in 2015, Bret Hart's kids asked me to do an interview, do a podcast with Bret Hart because they really wanted their dad to do a podcast. I said, give me a couple weeks, let me figure it out. And then Nick Hossman jumped on the opportunity. And I never got to do a podcast with Bret the Hitman Hart. And I always use that as an example. Now, when someone gives me something to do, I'm like, all right. Like even that Sting thing, I know he didn't want to do it, but I'm like, okay, we're gonna make the best.
I'll work it out. Yeah,
we'll work it out. He might hate me. I interview Sting, right? Yeah, we're not friends in real life. I love him, but we're not friends.
and there's a lesson there for anything in life, whether it's wrestling or whatever your passion is. Although I would imagine if you're an hour deep into our conversation, you're a wrestling fan. But there's a lesson there, which is that you just got to follow your passions, haven't you? And just screw the self-doubt and the imposter syndrome, because that's always going to be there, and everyone I know has self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Just give it your best shot and try.
Hard to shake sometimes. Well, but anyway, so I'm doing the thing with Bryan, and we spent like an hour and a half in the back just chatting, which made it so much easier by the time we went out there. We were just chatting. Like we went from like wrestling to the point where we're talking about like ants in space, and like I don't know, he was going down some crazy rabbit hole. I was very fascinated. I'm not even like being sarcastic. It was very fascinating. And I remember like they had Q&A questions from the fans that we were kind of going over, and like, do you want to answer this? Do you want to answer this? And we went out there, went on stage. It was great. We held on people, so we had great chemistry. But I went to the back and I went to Bryan. I'm like, yo, like once again, there's wrestlers that don't want to do it, and they will thank you for taking care of them and asking good questions. Bryan Danielson took care of me. He carried that show. Like I did great. I'm not going to downplay that I did a good job, and I think I did better than I expected I would. But like that would not have worked unless Bryan Danielson was Bryan. Like his art of telling stories and just like carrying it. Like if I ever froze up, like he filled it up. Like I got to interview him again. I think it was 2024, 23. He came to Vancouver, and I told him that, and he's like, "Oh, of course, man." He's like, "We're trained to do this." Like, and he's like, "It was a good time. This and that. And you're a good guy." And I was just like, "Carry job." For the first time me doing that, and it was such a cool experience. I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure there's other people that would have been great at it, but there probably was no one. That's a short list, because Bryan Danielson's up there as someone that will carry you if you do something like a live interview in person and you've never done it before. Because he knew it was my first one too. So like, I always say that's really cool, because like that's a situation where it was the opposite, where he like carried me. Another one that was, and once again, last story, we'll wrap it up. Stone Cold Steve Austin. That came through. He has this Stone Cold, this Broken Skull beer, right? So the El Segundo Brewing Company, their marketing team reached out to me and said they're doing an event for 316. Would you like to come down? And I said yes, but I would, and this is when I'm getting into this era now. We're in 2023 post-pandemic, where I'm like, okay, Justin, start asking for things, start valuing yourself. And the worst case scenario is they can say no. And I've always been that guy. I always tell like my younger friends and younger cousins, like, be okay with rejection, be okay with failure. It happens, like with women, with jobs, with things you want to do. Like, if you're okay with being rejected or failing, if you're okay to know that this is just going to make you a better person and stronger, and you love yourself enough, you can do anything in the world. You won't be ashamed. I'm okay with anybody rejecting me or saying no. I'm never offended by someone I never take it personally. I learned a long time ago, you can't take things personally. Sometimes people are having a hard time in their own life, or like they just don't want to do because they're worried they're going to say something, or maybe someone doesn't want to come on your podcast because they're in negotiations with a major company and they think it might mess them up, but they can't tell you that. So you can't get mad about it, that they don't want to do it, even though they said they do it. Like, you never know, right? You can't take things personally. There's usually always more going on behind the doors than you know. So I was like, pay for me to come down there, pay for my flight. I'll come down there and let me interview Stone Cold Steve Austin. They're like, okay, we'll pay for your flight. Tell us what it's gonna cost, and then what yeah, to the Stone Cold thing if Stone Cold wants to do it. They're like, at the end of the day, it's his discretion, right? Like, if he wants to, it doesn't. We're saying yes, but it's up to him.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, sure. Go down there, checking in at the front door, doing the little getting my band and stuff for media, whatnot. And once again, they warned me again. They're like, hey, oh, you're the guy that wants to interview him. Once again, it's his decision. It's up to him. He's like, you media people get to go meet him first. Bring it up and see how he feels, right? I was like, okay, sweet. Thank you for putting that on me.
For Rattlesnake, yeah.
Yeah. Never met Stone Cold before. Let's start with that. First time meeting this guy. Go in there and see him. And obviously we're at a brewery. And walk up to him. It's my time to go meet him. He like popped for my Stone Cold baseball jersey I was wearing and stuff. He's like, oh, the old jersey, yada, yada, yada. Come in here, take a picture. And then after we got pictures, I'm like, hey, like I was the one that was hoping to interview you a little bit later for like, and I just shot like 10, 15 minutes. I don't know why I just said that. And he was like, okay, yeah, 10 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And then he's like, he shaking my hand and he looked, and then he got like, so like, oh, he was all happy, like whatever. They got super serious, right? Completely understand. We're in a brewery. Look me dead in my eyes. Give me one of those like looking into your beady eyes look. He's like, stay sober. Like before we do the interview, like don't drink, right? Like he's like, stay sober. We'll do the interview, then you can have a beer. But he's like, stay sober until we do the interview. And I was like, okay, got you.
Love that.
Already had like 2 beers, but I was like, I'm good. I'm not drinking no more, right? So we do that, and then it's like someone came grab me after, like, hey, he's ready to do it. He's upstairs in his office. So we go upstairs, and he's like right away, like he sets up some chairs and he's sitting there. There's so and like. Not right away, because I actually first had to go outside, help him film something. No, that was after. Never mind. We did that after my interview. He filmed a thing, crushing beers with some other influencer to make like a TikTok or something. That was after. So mine was first. There was so many issues with the situation. One, I was playing around with the stupid like microphone thingy.
Oh, yeah.
And I never reset it back to its normal settings. So the sound was way too loud. These are just like mistakes that happen that, guys, it's okay. It happens. Two, it was so loud in there. Like it was just so loud in there. Like even though we're upstairs, like all the noise from downstairs was so loud. And I had to like this is one of the situations, once again, I can't have it exactly the way I want to have it. This is what we have to do. Yeah. Right? Like it is what it is. Like this is my only opportunity to interview Stone Cold. Just like this was maybe my only opportunity to interview Sting. We're just gonna do it.
Yeah.
Like, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. And he sat down, he's like, all right, 10 minutes, right? I sat down, I'm like, okay. And I've been told this a million times from people I do podcasts with and interviews. I can be grumpy. I can be pissed off. I can be yelling at people right before. I can be sad. I can be like so tired. But the moment we hit record, they're like, Justin, you just turn on. I don't like, we don't like, it's just like flip switches and you're ready to go. I'm like, I don't know. That happened after years of just doing this. That like, then the moment this turns off, I'm tired again, grumpy again, whatever it is. But anyway, anyways, so I sit there and the light goes off and my buddy's holding like my phone to record it. We got proper little call mics on and we start recording. It's 10 minutes and I know the drill, right? I have to promote the brewery. I have to promote the beers. Like as a wrestling fan, like I don't want to talk about any of this, but I know I have to, And I was biting into my 10 minutes, which was like very, very stressful, right? So I'm like, okay, we did that. And then we got to get into some wrestling stuff and then the best thing that can happen to you in an interview happened. And you know this for sure too. It was like when I'm like, the Canadian me has to ask you about Bret Hart. What does Bret Hart mean to you? And he got emotional. He's like, oh, you got me like emotional. And then he started telling me about like what Bret Hart, and I guess like people don't really ask him about that, but like being that 96, 97 kid, that's my introduction to Stone Cold, right? So, and he talked really highly about Bret Hart. And then we kind of wrapped up. It was like 8 minutes. No, it was 10 minutes. And then we kept talking after the fact, which I have the content, but I haven't really posted part of the interview because it's just like, we started talking about Macho Man. He started talking about DDP and stuff, but like the interview was done. But at the end of the interview, like, and like, you can't plan these things. And it's the best thing. And it's even better when you get it on camera. But he was just like, hey man, you're really good at this. You got a future in this business, kid. And I'm like, yo, Stone Cold Steve Austin just put me over. That's crazy. Yeah. And I was not prepared, like not prepared, but I was like trying to cram everything I kind of had planned in 10 minutes now. Cause I don't know if he said it's 10 minutes or I said it was 10 minutes, but somehow we agreed on 10 minutes, which I was like, really wish I had like 15, 20. And then like, also like I promoted his stuff, got the wrestling stuff in. And then like, it was so loud in there. There's so many issues with this whole situation, but like he put me over at the end and it was good. and people enjoyed it. And I got to interview Stone Cold. And till this day, like he's still like, I can DM him, he responds, he comments and stuff on my page. And I know he's someone that actually uses his social media. So it's like, it's really cool, you know what I mean? And then like all throughout the same day, so like for the 316 party, he brought up Bret Hart, and he was like, "Oh, some kid from Canada interviewed me earlier." Then in the evening, there was a 2K, like the video game launch party, and like all the New Day and the game, the rapper, and like Kathy Kelly and Kayla, and everybody was there. Rosenberg, Will Sass, like everybody was at this like party, the 2K launch event. I was there too because after the morning they invited me to come to that as well. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll come back in a few hours," and came to that. And he's giving a speech again, and the same thing. There was this kid from Canada that asked me about Bret earlier today. I'm like, this guy keeps referencing. Like that question really got him. Like,
yeah. Oh man, it just shows. I mean, I'd love to do a deeper kind of conversation with you where we talk also about the Hitman as well, and you know the stuff you've done with Bret on stage. But I mean, you could see that emotion at WrestleMania 41. You know when him and Bret accepted that award, and yeah, I mean, he just owes a huge amount. They both owe a huge amount to one another, really, don't they, in terms of what they did?
Yeah, well, that is my favorite match. WrestleMania 13, that's probably the match I've watched the most. It's a great match. And like,
mine's actually Survivor Series 96, their match they had.
It's a great match, and I think that's underappreciated.
Yeah, I adore that match, more so than WrestleMania 13.
Yeah, it's in many ways, and I have no issue saying this, probably is, like, at a technical standpoint, a better match. Because WrestleMania 13 was a brawl. It was a fight. And it was more the double turn and the blood and the face that made that so historic. But like WrestleMania 13, like, no, I mean, the Survivor Series was like a wrestling.
It's also like the last kind of match where Bret's like a pure hero before the dynamics start.
Yeah.
And a week later, I met Bret backstage, and that was like my pivotal childhood moment, you know. So it was all kind of wrapped up in that kind of November 96. But it was like, would he come back to the WWF? Will we ever see him again? Was he done? And then see him back. And after that, the character, because everything's changing with Stone Cold and how the company's going, that was kind of the last time we saw like a proper, full-on, 100% babyface Bret Hart in the WWF before the character.
Because then he started getting angry and he kept getting screwed.
Quite right. Well, look, before we go down a Bret Hart rabbit hole, which we could easily do, for today, I mean, this has been such a great conversation.
I'm so sorry we went so long.
No, thank you for doing it. But last thing, if my audience are not following you, and I'm pretty sure everyone is, but if they're not, where can my audience find you and support you, Justin?
Follow me on the Wrestling Classic on Instagram. That is the baby. That's where it all started. That's the hub. You'll know everything that's going on if you're following that. Subscribe to the Wrestling Classic YouTube channel. Once again, try dropping one interview a week. These days, it's really harder than I don't know how Chris does 2 a week. Props to him.
He's a machine.
Trying to drop one interview a week. And I brought back the TWC show. So we do a weekly podcast just talking about wrestling. Sometimes we'll talk about current things like AJ Lee returns. So we made sure to spotlight that. But then some weeks it's just like, who's the greatest Intercontinental Champion, or playing games that guess us women's wrestling and stuff. And then Just Yapping is a third show we have on there, which is really just like, I wanted people to get to know me outside of wrestling, like to know just who I am regularly. So it's just me and my buddies talking crap about life and TV and experiences growing up and stuff like that, which has nothing to do with wrestling. I know it's weird, but I feel like I see it catching on, and people are just enjoying listening to that when they're like, I've gotten feedback like, when I was driving to work, listen, that was so funny, you guys are hilarious. I'm like, oh, okay, sweet. So check out that. There's a couple of Just Yapping episodes that were fill-in episodes and my co-host couldn't do it, where I talked to Mercedes and Joe Alonzo and stuff like that too. So Rikishi, so check those out. Ton of interview stuff on the Wrestling Classic on YouTube, Wrestling Classic on Instagram, TWC Worldwide on, I know on Twitter, and I think on TikTok as well. And then the Wrestling Classic, I have a page on Facebook that has like 84,000 followers that I just started utilizing more because I didn't realize it existed. But it does, and it's popping, and those people there. So follow me everywhere. If you click on my link in my bio on Instagram, you can find my link tree with all the links to everything. And then JustinDillon.com also has the links to everything. So yeah. Amazing. You're a busy man. Well, thank you for making the time for me today. You know, I appreciate you. Thank you for waiting. I was late. I apologize. It's all good. Kept you longer. for today, to wrap up Wrestling Life, my amazing guest has been Justin Dhillon, the Wrestling Classic. I've been Ben Veal, Wrestling Life. So until next time, be good to each other. Pay it forward if you can. Make someone smile if you can. I'll see you soon. Bye.